Welcome to the Startup Leaders Show, where we learn lessons from startup founders and executives. I am your host, Lisa Dreher, and I am really excited to introduce our guest for today, Isabelle Mierau. She is the founder of Space Debris DAO. Welcome to the show, Isabelle.
Hi, great to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. So maybe we can start by having you give a little bit of background on yourself and Space Debris DAO.
Sure. I am Isabelle, and we started with Space Debris DAO like 6 months ago, roughly. So to have the initial idea to the point where we are now. And back then, I was working with a governmental think tank. So it's a legal think tank where we explore questions about the law of the future. And space law became one of our topics, and we were preparing a space law session, and I became aware of the issues we have in finding international agreements and enforcing those agreements, especially in space. And over time, I met a few people involved also in the European Space Agency working on clean space and the Zero Debris Charter. And I was always very interested about implementation tools for those kind of agreements. So it's really nice to have agreements on what should be happening in space, that we should be more sustainable. But I was always asking, like, how can we actually how can we implement those agreements? And Space Debris DAO was the idea for the implementation for those ideas, right? So you want to create a community where we incentivize the compliance with sustainability standards, such as a Zero Debris DAO, Zero Debris Charter, by giving discounts to, for instance, insurance, maybe for satellite hardware, for all kinds of things that space startups need. But by joining us, they get benefits and discounts, but they have to comply with certain sustainability standards as well to be allowed to join, basically.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so the whole goal here is to, I guess, minimize or maybe at some point eliminate space debris, which we know is a huge challenge today, right?
Yeah, I mean, space debris is part of the issue, right? Obviously, what we want to see is a whole sustainable space economy that really acts on this principle of space being used for everyone, for the benefit of all. And that also does mean, for me, not to harm our environment or to harm anyone's atmosphere, environment, ocean, and so on. So I think on the long term, it's not just about debris, but debris is a very urgent point of space sustainability.
Great, great. So, what are some of the organizations that you are currently engaged with?
Yeah, so currently we started to build partnerships with people. So only very few of them are about to be official. So I can't really announce the names right now, but we have been getting amazing feedback from the industry and from the people we have been talking to. Last autumn, I was able to join the workshop of the Zero Debris Charter as well, to meet also a lot of companies who are already very invested in space sustainability, and who take it already serious and want to engage in the discussion of forming principles, also forming technical guidelines together. And I think that's a good sign. We've been talking to insurance companies as well, because space debris is also an issue for those who cover the risks in space. And last year was a very difficult year for the insurance market, because space gets riskier currently every day, basically, because there's so many more launches. The number of space debris is growing, so we have to do something to reduce the risks together.
Right, right. Are you working on a global basis then, or are you focused in certain regions?
Yeah, so far, thanks to the internet, thanks to LinkedIn also, I was able to talk with people from like a lot of different places. In our first launching event, we had the president of the Tunisian Space Association joining us and talking about emerging space actors, which I find really inspiring. So we are also really open and talking a lot to those emerging space actors, where the space economy can have still a great impact on the local economy and on the countries, but also on the society through, agriculture monitoring, climate change monitoring. So it's really interesting for us to talk with these kind of people. But generally, we talk to also North American companies, to Asian companies, lots of startups in India as well. So it's really interesting to see this is truly a global industry and a global economy.
Absolutely. So, what have been the biggest keys to your success so far? It sounds like you've engaged on a really broad level.
I think for me so far it was really talking to people, because I am not native in the space industry, right? So I come from I studied psychology and sociology, so talking to people is more natural to my background. But to learn about this specific economy, to this sector, the challenges we're facing there, most of the things I learned is to the direct contact with people who have been working for 20 plus years in the sector and so on, and listening to their experiences, getting their feedback on our ideas, co-developing the concept over time. And I think this is, especially for an outsider in this whole sector, was really valuable for me to really talk to a lot of different people.
That's great. What have been some of the most valuable lessons that you've learned along the way?
That's a lot of different things. I think one of the most valuable things was also to learn about the geopolitical challenges in this whole area. Not just because we are a DAO and we have to have specific requirements for the registration of a DAO to find the right location for our company, because it's quite a new concept. Lots of countries still don't even have a legal framework for this kind of groups. But also to see, to be aware of course, the militarization of space, that there's a lot of gaps of trust, obviously, while having simultaneously this need for collaboration. But that's also what fascinates me. But that's a challenge I'm still learning about, because obviously there's a lot of depth to it. But I think it's an exciting challenge and a very exciting environment to learn about this.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about, so I was saying DAO. It sounds like you say DAO. So tell me a little bit more about the formation of this type of organization and kind of how that works.
Yeah, so we chose the DAO as a decentralized autonomous organization, as an organization form or structure, because we think it can address many of the challenges we have in space. One of those is actually this geopolitical challenge, right? Of these different actors from different nations and different interests and different relations to each other as countries. So a DAO is decentralized. That means you don't have the servers of our companies or something based in only Germany, and then a country that doesn't trust German politics or German relations, they are not able to join or don't able to trust us. So a DAO enables a very interesting level of transparency, of trust, of also participation, because another thing that we really like is that in this DAO allows us to really build a community, so that the memberships who will pay a membership fee into the DAO, they don't lose this fee. It's not like this fee goes to a company and the company can be more or less transparent on what they do with this money. But like the majority of this money in the fund will remain in the control of the members, and all the executions, like where the money goes, can be directed by votings from the members. So also the rules on when there is a transfer made, this is all encoded and the code is transparent to all members. So there are not many surprises in terms of what happens with the membership treasury, for instance. So in this way, there's a lot of benefit the DAO has compared to traditional NGOs or companies, especially when you think about international collaboration of people who never met each other, who don't live in the same country, but have a shared interest.
Right. Great, great, great. So knowing what you know now, is there anything that you would do different if you were to start all over?
That's an interesting question. So when I started, I really started discussing this idea before I thought I would actually do it, right? So in the beginning, I was just fascinated by this implementation challenge and implementation opportunities we have in space right now. I think one thing I would have done sooner is looking for a team to build with, is looking for incubators to work with, because I was really focused on developing the concept in the beginning and kind of finding the ideal way to the right theory, right, to build on. And I think what is equally important is the implementation of the implementation solution, right? So to really build a company structure out of it, to not only talk about the space economy and to talk not only to space professionals, but also talk to business experts who can advise in basically all their startup related parts. So I was really focused on understanding the space sector first and developing the concept. But I think it would have been also good to, at the same point, already starting to think about the business and corporate side about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of times when we are beginning something new like this and pulling together a new organization, whether that be a commercial organization or otherwise, we run into these roadblocks along the way. What have you found are the most effective ways to just kind of work through those roadblocks that you inevitably run into?
I think for me, like, I mean, it's not the first project I've worked with, luckily. So it was always throughout the projects that I have something, the value I see in the project, right? The value in why am I doing this, right? And that might be bigger than just it's a cool idea. It might be actually thinking about, okay, if that works in 20 years, what could be the impact of this, and is that worth all the effort that you're putting into the thing? And what really excited me at the Space Debris DAO is that it's not just a way to hopefully incentivize sustainability structures in space, but if that works, this kind of model can be replicated in other industries as well. You know, it's more like exploring an alternative idea of incentivizing collaboration for sustainability. We do it now in space, but I think this concept itself, it's something that we will test and refine over the years, and it's something worth pursuing. So I think that really helps with all the challenges we face, because then we can see it as a learning opportunity and to see, okay, these are the conditions our system has to be able to meet, right? So we can see what are the specific requirements that our concept has to fulfill so that it works.
Right, right. If there was one prediction you could make about the future, what would it be?
One prediction, you say?
Yes.
Well, it's very hard to predict the future. I try to not predict it, even though we work with foresight at our Institute for Legal Transformation. So there we try to develop scenarios about the future. So I think it's kind of better to talk about scenarios. And I think one scenario that is not impossible is that space will become something that accelerates human collaboration, right? Not just because, like, for different reasons. One reason is very obvious. That's what space industry provides to us. It's the internet connectivity. It's like we might be able to onboard like millions of more people to global communication networks, which are currently like they don't have a say in our global communication. They can't join the discussions we have online right now here. So I think that makes a major difference. But also to make this happen and to build this economy, we require international collaboration despite the conflicts we have. So I think that's a great learning opportunity for all of us to see there are international conflicts, they're ongoing right now, but there's always options for collaborations because we have some bigger shared goals in the back of everything. So I think that's also something very, very nice.
Oh, yeah. I love that. I love that perspective and that thought. So if somebody wanted to learn more about Space Debris DAO, what would they do?
For sure, everyone can just drop me a message on LinkedIn. I'm always very happy to connect with people. We also have a LinkedIn page for the Space Debris DAO. We also started a LinkedIn group on shaping a sustainable space economy. And we are very happy to have everyone joining who is sharing this vision of having a sustainable space economy that benefits all. So it's not just our group, it's for everyone who is interested in it. And they are free to share their paper, their events, their insights and ideas and discuss and network. So I think that's a great option to get started.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for making time to be here today, Isabelle. It was really great to learn more about the Space Debris DAO, and we really look forward to seeing the way that your program advances over time.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me.
Absolutely. I do want to take a moment to thank GuideForce for hosting these sessions. To learn more about GuideForce, you can visit guideforce.com. And we'll see you next time on the Startup Leaders Show.